Hello and welcome. In today's video, you will learn how to engrave curved text onto objects in Blender 5.2 and beyond. We'll get started in a brand new file and we'll keep our starter cube active so we can actually make an arch. So I'm just going to grab this top face right here, zoom out a little bit, GZ, and I'll bring this up. Then I'll press 1 to go to front view. I'll zoom in a little bit and move over here, and I will hold shift and right click right here. By doing that, we have now moved the 3D cursor right next to this top face right here. With that in place, and while still in edit mode, we will scroll down here on the taskbar until you find this spin option right here. You will click on it, and that's gonna make this gizmo appear over here. We can set the number of steps. I think this is default 12, and then we can actually change the axis here, and there's only one that will work generally speaking. So what you want to do is basically take your point and then mentally draw a circle around it. And you're going to see when we have it on Y, this kind of works in this circle, right? You can see that this mental circle, you don't actually even have to mentally do it. You can just hold it here, I'm sorry. So now that we've identified the correct axis, we have to just make sure that we actually have this face selected right here. So go ahead and select that, press 1 to go back to front view, and now click on this. That will make this gizmo here appear. We are going to hold control for the incremental and then just slightly drag this out until it's straight right here. Now we can come back over here and disable the spin tool again by clicking on the select box. And then let's just, to be sure, but because this doesn't actually make it perfectly straight, let's SX0, and that will actually make sure that this face is perfectly vertical. Now let's go ahead and GX to move this out a tiny bit. Then we will press Shift S and do cursor to selected to bring the 3D cursor to that plane. Then we will tab out of edit mode, right click on our object, set origin to 3D cursor. And now we can go ahead to the modifiers tab right here. We can press add modifier and add the mirror modifier. Let's enable clipping over here, make sure merge is enabled as well, and then we will just apply that modifier right away. Now we have our curved surface. You probably already have a surface that you want to put the text on, but I will just go ahead and shade this auto smooth. And now we can go ahead and bring in our text. So let's Shift A and type in text and add that. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this on the X by 90 degrees and move this a little bit on the Y to bring it in front of our actual object. And I'm quickly going to change the font. So I'm going to head down here on the data properties. Then I'm going to come under font right here and press on this little folder icon and select a font I like. I'll take the Fira Code font. And now we are going to go ahead and press 1 on the numpad to go into front view, tab into that text object to actually change it, and I will type something like curved. Let's quickly scale that up with S and move it a bit over here. Now the only thing we're dealing with is that we can't actually curve this necessarily using these settings, so we're going to have to start off by turning this text object into an actual mesh. So let's right click, convert to mesh. Now we can tab back into edit mode, and this is now an actual mesh object. The topology is a little bit of a mess to say the least. You could fix this by retopologizing the letters or just building the letters from scratch even. For this purpose, I won't actually retopologize. This is a video just for methodology, not topology. And for a still render, this won't cause any shading artifacts anyway. Now that this is an actual mesh, we can use a specific modifier on this to curve it. So let's press 1 to go back into front view. And we're going to come up here to the options right here, click on this and press effect only origins. And you will see this gizmo appear right here. Now in object mode, if we try to move this object, then we will actually move the origin point. So let's press G, X and move this to the middle of the text. The reason why we put this on the middle of the text is because the modifier is going to make this text bend around this point. So we want it to actually bend in the middle. Let's come back up here into the options and make sure you uncheck that, otherwise it's going to cause problems. Let's once again head to the modifiers tab down here, add modifier and type in simple deform. Now let's come out of front view here so we can actually see what it's doing. You can see it's kind of curving it already, but we actually want it, instead of twist, we want it to bend. And more importantly, we want it to bend on the Z axis. And you're going to see that that immediately makes it curve in the correct direction, but we actually want it to go into the negatives for this example. So I'll type in -90. And now let's come back into front view and actually arrange this a little bit. So I'm going to scale it down slightly. I'm going to move it on the Z. Once you're satisfied with the curvature and the size of the text, you can just change this to whatever you want, obviously, and size this to whatever you want. We can actually go ahead and project this onto the mesh. So what we're going to do is click on the actual object that we want the text to be on top of, and we will tab into edit mode. Make sure you deselect everything by clicking next to it or pressing A twice. And then let's locate our text object in the outliner here and just hold Control and click on it. You will see that our text is now highlighted in red and we are still in edit mode for our other object. So now what we'll do is press 1 to go into front view. And let's go ahead and come up here to mesh, click on that, and then go all the way down until you see knife project. You press this, So now we can actually move out of front view and you will see that the text is now projected onto the other object. We can now go ahead and click on this and press H to hide it, head back into edit mode right here, and we could do things like extruding inwards, extruding outwards. You can even scale this down slightly to give it a weird effect. You could do a whole bunch of things with this. Now you might say, okay, this is terrible topology, and it is, but once again, if it's for a still render, this won't actually cause any major shading artifacts. If this is for a game asset, then you would obviously want to go ahead and, retopologize this so you don't have any problems there with optimization. I hope that video helped you. I hope it was entertaining. I hope you learned something. I hope a whole lot of things. Moreover, I hope that I will one day find happiness. Anyway, thanks for watching. Love you. Bye-bye.